Good to see you back on my channel again. And I think I got another great video for you lined up today because I want to take you through a brand new version of StudioX and G7500 version 3.13. I think again a really exciting release. New features, some maintenance updates, but as usual, I'm gonna walk it all through in a presentation. And hopefully you will enjoy it. There's a lot of updates from the last period, so I'll probably show you some updates in between for the different devices. But I will have like separate videos in the upcoming weeks, separate videos about all those different updates. You will see them passing by. But I think the most important one today is StudioX G7500 3.13. As usual, let's say, take a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and I will walk that through on my computer. All right, let's get started. And hopefully, of course, you will enjoy it. Let me know if you like this type of videos. Subscribe to my channel if you want to stay up to date. And I will regularly try to keep you updated with all the latest and greatest. 3.13, brand new update. We got maintenance updates, new features, etc. But as you can expect from me, I will talk you through all the different features and functions that are available in this release. Now, first off, where I always start with is upgrade and downgrade, because there are multiple options available. The first thing is your upgrade doing through the web UI. So if you got just one or two units in, it makes sense to just easy upgrade. You connect to the web UI of your StudioX. If it's still like out of the box, brand new, it's the last 6 digits. And otherwise, you probably have configured a password on that web interface. Then you go to the device management, and there you'll find the updates, not only for StudioX, but also for the TC8. They're very important. Now, what is always in question is should you enable automatic updates? So I recommend not to automatically update. Just first do one or two rooms, test them, and make sure that all your features and functions are working and that's compatible with your current network environment. So be aware of that. If you do this, it could be in the early morning when you arrive or people start using those rooms and that they're not available. So be very conscious of doing those automatic updates, which automatically will happen in the middle of the night. Now, also important is to keep them in sync. And so if you install the 313 on your StudioX device, make sure you install the 313 also on your TC8 if you have them, the controller at the table. Now that will automatically be pushed out as soon as you initiate the upgrade. Another way to upgrade your device is using the USB. So you can download the StudioX software package from the support website from Poly. You unpack it, put everything on the root of the stick. You just plug it into your StudioX and it will upgrade. So it will upgrade not only StudioX, but also if you got that TC8 attached, it's also being upgraded. So this is more for the guys going in the field and install multiple of these. You don't want to wait for internet connectivity, then it's always a good one to just bring everything up to date very quickly. The other thing is lens, and so probably you've played with lens. I think it's a very powerful tool for all of your devices, even when they are in Teams or in Zoom. You can see some of those features and functions which you can specifically tweak, like camera settings, or which are not available to configure that in Teams. So it makes sense in some certain situations to even use lens. So you can remotely just reboot the devices, or you can remotely configure like speaker track instead of group track, etc. And so there's still use cases for lens. Now, what you will see in lens, the 313 there popping up Similar thing, don't put it to auto update. I would say first do just one or two rooms in Lens. You can even create groups. So you have now the opportunity where you can set different device policies, like for device model, device groups, a site based on the IP address of your location, or a policy based on the individual device. And the policy has a priority as you see right here. So individual is the top priority. So everything you can configure in this like top level will have the highest priority looking at the lower level. So I think this is really important, but keep that in mind. Just create a group, a test group, just put one or two units in there, bring them up to that 313. You can bring them up to date, test them out for 1 or 2 weeks, and you should be able to find if it's working properly. And then, yeah, slowly just roll that out to the rest of the organization. The other thing is if something goes wrong or it's not working as expected, you can always go back in Lens. So you will find previous versions in Lens. So that is, I think, good to know. If there's some certain behavior not as expected, just go back to the previous version, see if everything is working properly, and then you can yeah, just do it in one or two rooms and make sure you can find out what the solution is. The other thing is Teams Admin Center, of course. So I showed you that also in earlier videos. You can go in Teams Admin Center. You will find now Teams Room on Android. Same thing is you will find StudioX and the TC8. So that's the controller. You will find them right here. So you need to make sure you update both of them. If you do like a 313 update or you do an application update, always do them on both of them. Same with the Zoom device management. Make sure you push out that software to the StudioX and push it out to that TC8 device. Really powerful. So this is always for me the basis to just bring you up to speed how you can upgrade or downgrade your devices. Now, what comes along in the package with the 313? We got different features and functions. So in the TC8 controller is embedded there. So the 313 we got the microphone IP adapter, which is all the same, the IP table microphone, the Cube, the E70 has a new release, the 1.6, very important maintenance update. So you can push it out to all your devices, valid update, and what you will see on the G7500, your E70 camera will also upgrade to 1.6. So it could be that it's not at the same time. So if you push out 313, that the 1.6 is not coming directly to the E70, but just push it out again, and then it should be able to upgrade also your E70 to that 1.6 release. That's an important release, especially for the cameras, so the E70 and in the X70, and there's some important maintenance releases in there. So really recommend to get at least to that 313 to make sure that you're compatible with all of the with all of the platforms on those devices. Now, what more is available? So if you are on, for example, E70 with an MTR Windows, how do you update them? Now, first off, so if you got that E70 connected over USB, it's a Microsoft Teams certified device. So after certain amount of days, it will automatically get the update through those Windows update services. That is usually with Teams and certified devices, so that will automatically happen. Now, in this case, as the 1.6 is an important update, you can push it through the PolyLens app. So whether from the MTO Windows or from your laptop, just connect it using USB, it will automatically show you the update. As you see right here, you push out the update button and get a cup of coffee, which I do the whole day, and it will automatically push out that important maintenance release on your E70. So the E70 has some like compatibility updates with the Teams room system. So really recommend to upgrade to that 1.6 to your E70 camera as soon as possible. And so that it's all up to date. Also, what is in the 1.6 release, which you probably tried out, is that people view. So that people director AI option where you got the ability to track all the participants in the room. A brand new director AI tracking feature, people where it's able to find the different participants in the room, max 6 persons. If you are with more persons, it will fall back to group framing. What about the camera control app? So just a reminder, there is a free camera control app available for MTR Windows. So if you have that from any brand, you can just install that application. It will take the control slot, as you see right here. So you'll get some additional buttons there where you can click. This will bring up a new camera control application, and here you can select as a user your tracking that you want. So you can put it to speaker track. If you want to like have all the participants always visible, you can switch back to group track. And if you want to just track all the participants, those 6 participants in the room at the same time, to give them that room layout, you can use that people option, and that will make sure you can see all the participants in your in your Teams view. I think really nice. So I would really recommend just install the free app, just play around with it on your E70 in your room, and you can use that. And there's an update which I'll show a little bit later. There's also an update for Studio USB and R30, which also has now this people tracking AI option available. But I will show that a bit later as a reference where you can find all those software versions. Now, looking at the audio service software, that's very important. So in case you use speaker track in rooms with your MTR windows, and you got a speaker track which you want to use with your camera, make sure you install that audio service software on your MTR Windows device. So that can be with trios, with sync, with some of the DSPs like QSC, Shure, Biant, or for Extron. There's all super DSPs out there which you can use. That all works together. It's just a matter of that this audio service software will eliminate that the E70 is not tracking those speakers in the room. It will make sure that really the persons who are in the room which are talking and that they're being tracked. So it gives you that optimal tracking performance. And the only thing you need to do is you install the service software file. Of course, I would always recommend check that release notes and the install guide where you can find all the details. But it's not like that rocket science to work through that. All right, what more has happened in the 3.13? Well, as you see right here, a peripheral update in sleep mode. So before the 3.13, what happened if devices were in sleep mode, like cameras or touch panels or microphone, etc., it didn't do or didn't initiate the update. And so you had to reinitiate it again. But probably if somebody does that update once, it didn't happen. So what happens now after? So you first, of course, need to wake up the devices now to make sure that they get this 3.13 update. But after now you install this update, what will happen? It will wake up the peripherals connected to StudioX or G7500 and will make sure it will get those updates. So just a very nice thing to know in the background, but save some work for the administrators. Pushes it out, the system wakes up. But again, this is after the 3.13 update. So still you need to make sure you wake up the attached devices like cameras, etc. Wake them up before you initiate that update. Another nice feature which was added in the 3.13 release is the Ugreen support. So that means you can convert HDMI to USB, as you have an additional USB option available as a camera. So if you got some of those intelligent cameras with an HDMI output only, you can use the Ugreen, just convert it into USB, and you can connect it to your G7500. A very nice additional option. As you can see here, we already supported in the 3.4 release, we had the IOGene, which is also an HDMI to USB converter. So there's a lot of those peripheral devices, third-party peripheral converters, which are available. It's always good to know. And if you're looking for more info I will put those links in the comments, so you always have them as a reference available. Another nice thing in the 313, good to know, is you can use the system name instead of the SIP address. So this is what you will see when you look in the Studio X web UI. You will see a new option under the call settings is display name instead of SIP address. So you can imagine usually you would see like a whole string there, a whole name, but now you can give it like the room configuration name, etc. Just use the name right here, and you're able to push that out in the room because it had sometimes a very long name, just the SIP address 1234 at company dot thing. So it makes much more sense to just call it that specific room name, which makes much more sense for people. So it will use the device name, as you see right here, the display, the system name, to push that out, and people will see that in the meeting room. Very nice. So this is just a new option. Just good to know that is happening if you're using your device in the Poly OS mode. That is important. So this is not in the Teams or Zoom or any of those other modes. This is purely when you use it with a PAX platform or with Real Connect. You've got the ability now to do that. Now let me show you quickly in the web UI where you can find it. Here you go. So we are here in the StudioX web UI. So where you can configure that, here you go to call configuration, you go to call settings, and here you will find that option, display system name instead of SIP address. You just enable that, and then you will find the naming that it will use is that will be under system settings. So here you see the device name, and this is the name that will be used now instead of a complex email address or something as a SIP. All right, so that was showing you the system name instead of the SIP address. Another great one is I think you saw in the previous release, we enabled device mode in Studio X70. Really great received because we have a lot of customers who are on multiple platforms, and at the end probably want to end up in Zoom or they want to end up with Teams. Now in Zoom, you can use Studio X today, but not yet in Teams. That is still that certification is still in progress. But meanwhile, you can use the X70, of course, with the device mode, or use it even in permanent device mode. That is something you can configure under the providers. Now, what is important if you want to configure the permanent device mode, so make sure that it is always available through USB with people walking with a laptop. There's an option available under the provider, which is the device mode. But what you need to do, because what I sometimes saw is that that didn't work, but that was because the collaboration tools was not enabled. So you need to make sure that you enable this collaboration tools. Tick in the box right here, and then you can turn it in permanent device mode. So this is something to be aware of. But let me just quickly show you in the web UI where you can find those settings. All right, so back in the web UI of the Studio X, so how you can put it into permanent device mode there. Of course, you normally go to provider, and here you can choose from the drop-down list that you can choose here the device mode. Now, what I've seen that sometimes it didn't work. If you save it, the device didn't reboot. Now, what you need to check is then go to System Settings and then go all the way down and check if collaboration tools is or the device mode is enabled. I've seen sometimes if this is not enabled, it doesn't go into the permanent device mode. So you enable this, probably do a reboot, then you go back to the provider, you set this back to permanent device mode, you save it, and then it should reboot and come into that permanent mode. Just tip, you might have run into this into the field, but just a tip to get that working functional and properly with your X70. All right, let's continue with the presentation. A lot of exciting features to share. So now more diving deeper into the application, Teams, Zoom, and all the other application running on StudioX. But first off, the Teams application running on the StudioX. So what happened there? So with the 3.13 release, what is important, we'll have the 2103 added as application to this release. That was the latest release at that point of time, to embed that with the 3.13. So we have that in our software. Again, always make sure you push out to the StudioX and to the TC8. Very important to keep them in sync for the compatibility with each other. Now, I know meanwhile the development keeps on going, but it could be that Microsoft has already newer versions in Teams Admin Center. Now, you always have the ability, if there is a newer version, you can push them out to both the StudioX and the TC8. And that's always a possibility. So don't forget that could be Microsoft is working on fixes, maintenance releases, new features, etc. It could be. And as soon as Poly comes out with a newer release, they always try to add that latest at that point of time in the software. So it's all just keeping each other in sync. But it's no issue to update specifically from Teams Admin Center. That will always align with the Poly OS update that is coming. That is all compatible with each other. Now, what is new in this release? There's not a lot of features, so we got maintenance in here, so that's very important to keep everything up to date. We got front row phase one, so that was already available in the previous release, so we don't see any chat, we don't see any transcripting on the right or on the left side, just very basic front row. I call it a sort of phase one, but you got at least the ability to use that layout. Now, one which I'm also really excited about is that MTRoA. I mean, this is where I know for years with customers want to have. They got teams, but of course they got business partners out there which are using Zoom, WebEx, or any other platform. So I know we already got that BYOD support today in StudioX. It's already very flexible. But now we got WebEx in its latest release. I think really, really nice. So what I want to do quickly is show you where you can find this setting and how does it look like. So to give you a quick impression. I will do a separate video to dive deeper on this subject, but just to give you an impression how this looks like on the Studio X. All right, welcome into my MTR on Android meeting room. So what do I have here? So on the left side, you see a Studio X30 connected to a screen. Under there, the table, you got that TC8, and here below you see the TC8 screen. And so I made that bigger, so we're able to review those different features and functions. The first thing you need to do is you need to enable the WebEx Direct Guest Join. So similar location where you did that for Zoom. So let me show you that. So you go here to More, you go to Settings, and of course, depending on your configuration, it could be hidden behind a password. You go to Meetings. Now, all the way below, here you go. You will find now the option with Cisco WebEx. Here you go. You just need to enable that. That's the only thing you need to do. So then you go back. You don't have to save it. You go all the way back, and all of a sudden, the meeting is now recognized. And so important is that it's using the web URL to make sure you got the meeting invite there. Now with Zoom, you can see the next meeting is a Zoom meeting. It's also not recognized. So similar thing, you go to More, you go to Settings, you go to Meetings, we go down, we enable also Zoom, and you can also configure if you want to custom name and email. If you want to change that, go all the way back, and here you go. So we got now experience for a WebEx meeting, and you will see the join experience for a Zoom meeting. I think this is really powerful. And any other meeting you would have, just use the BYOD mode. Just plug in the USB cable, plug in the HDMI cable, and you can just share the meeting you're using from your laptop with the Studio. I think a really, really powerful one. So let me show you what is the end user experience look like. Okay, so let me click now on join meeting. So what you will see, it will use a sort of Chromium browser technology, and it will be connecting into the meeting. Here you go. So joining the meeting now, and here you go. We're now in the meeting. Really easy. So you got some limited functionality. So look at the touch panel right here below. So you see you can have your camera muted if you want to. You got there a mute button. So very limited in controls, but at least you can do something. So it's a single screen solution today, as I understand. So you will only have one screen which will have this available. But at least I think already the ability to just join a WebEx meeting is really powerful. Now on the screen, if you got a touch screen, so that's the touch screen you see right there, you got also some possibilities. You can mute, as you see right here, and it's nicely in sync with the StudioX. You can here look at the participants. You go. So on the right side, you got the participants there on the screen. So I think that's really powerful. You can really just browse through some features and functions. In case you got a touch screen, you can do some additional things. You see also here some emotions which you can drop down into the meeting. Really nice, as you see right here. But that comes only along you got a mouse connected there, or you got a touch screen. It's got the ability to receive content. And so if somebody shares a presentation or something, you got the ability to receive it. So let me do that. All right, so sharing a presentation now, loading up. Again, what you will see, here you go. So we got now a presentation shared from a remote site, which will pop up on the Studio X. I think really nice. And again, yeah, you can change layout, but not on the TC8. What you'll see is on the TC8 there is no layout option, just volume control, camera on and off, mute and hang up. But if you got that touch control, what you see, there's probably some more options as you find here on the top. So I can set, for example, here video side by side. But that is more if you have, again, if you got a touchscreen or a mouse connected. So you can play a little bit more with features and functions. That's similar with Zoom. You also had some additional options when, yeah, when using that in the guest join function in combination with a touchscreen. If you want to review that, I would check out that video where I'm showing you the direct guest join with Teams. With direct join with Zoom, but also within the Teams application. All right. So that is the WebEx guest join. I think really real powerful and similar as now for Zoom. We have that now, yeah, also available for WebEx. All right. So let's get back to the presentation. But in overall, I'm really excited about seeing those multiple application and video provider support on StudioX. From the team side, I think this is really what customers will love. I hope that Microsoft will add more of those video guest join partners in the future. Some tips and tricks, and I will dive in another session. I will dive deeper into this. But what is important if you're gonna set up those WebEx meetings, make sure in the location field you got that information. This is the field that, yeah, the StudioX in native Teams with that button enabled to support WebEx guest join. This is the field that it will read. So make sure in the location field you got that information. Similar with Zoom, you also see your Zoom meeting invite. As I said, using the Chromium browser technology, sort of guest client, and then that will read that location field. So that's very important. Some other tips and tricks and good to knows is if you're gonna set the calendaring processing on that resource mailbox, make sure if you want to allow external people to forward invites that you enable to process external meeting messages to through. That means when I walk in as a guest into any company, I can forward the invite to that StudioX and it will show it. Because otherwise, I know by default, the resource mailbox will not allow external domains, external meeting invites. The other things, but these are by default with resource mailboxes, is you set delete comments to false and delete subject to false to make sure that all the information stays intact in the subject field and in the comments field. And that's of course very important to get all the meeting information out there. Just some tips and tricks. I will get deeper on that. The other applications, what more do we have? Zoom. What is delivered with Zoom? With StudioX, we got the 5.11.x delivered in the package. So I think that's really important. Comes along, make sure you update StudioX and the TC8, or in this case also your G7500. Similar thing here, it could be and that Zoom already in the Zoom device management already has a newer update for StudioX or the TC8, and you always have the ability to upgrade that separately. Yes, that app APK, that application, yeah, can independently be managed on those devices. So that can always be pushed out if needed. What is new in that latest 5.11 release? The TC8 controller has now the dark mode option. Really nice. So there was in the past only the white background, but the white background, yeah, could give really some lights in those meeting rooms. So there's a new option available, as they call it a theme. You can put it into the dark mode. That makes sure that yeah, that it gives a little bit more rest in the room and also looking at power consumption, etc. Now, the other thing which is important is their upgrade alerts. So when you use free accounts, you will get alerts to buy licenses. You got multiple day meetings now on the display. There's a big list of new features in the 5.11 release, but I will put a link in the comments so you're able to check them all out. So what is more in that 3.13 release? So we got from Tencent meeting, we got an update there. So there's now the G7500 support. G7500 support with two monitors or one standard monitor and one touchscreen. We got two Poly TC8 controllers supported, and we got one Eagle Eye 4 camera also supported, including the Poly IP mic table. So this is a supported configuration. I don't know if any other configuration would work. You probably can try that out in lab, but this is the configuration that's been certified by the Tencent meeting and working today. Now, a lot of other updates from the other application, mostly maintenance releases, as you see right here. But yeah, I always point to the release notes where you can find them. But you see a lot of things here as maintenance releases available. So I will put a link, of course, in the comments, so you're always able to check out those latest versions, where most of the additional information is also available on the websites of those partners. So make sure you check that out. Again, you will see a lot of those things there in the release notes. This is where I usually always point to get some additional features and functions, etc. You get always a great summary there. What is new? And I'm trying to yeah, to give you some more ideas and perspectives and tips and tricks, of course, in my videos. But you always find there a list of those new functions and features available. All right, and that's it with the 3.13 update. So lastly, I wanted to give you some references for the upcoming videos. I will dive deeper in all of this. So for the R30, there's been a software update. You can find under software releases the 2.1 release. So now you got also in the R30, you got the people, yeah, the director people view available just to capture the participants in the room. That's also available now, and similar for the Poly Studio USB. And there's also now a software update available, the 2.1 release available from the website right now. But again, I will dive deeper into those devices a bit later on. But you got, I think, that great director AI feature available. So you can always just look in the release notes, open it up, and you will find it right there. So you see what's new. We got now that people framing available and a conversation mode. So you can capture up to 6 participants in the room, same as for Studio USB. Really, really powerful. Lastly, what I wanted to mention is a great website from Uwe, one of my colleagues. Got a great website with very good information on what's going on, different features and functions, but also he's talking about Android 10. So there's a new update coming, an operating system upgrade for StudioX and the G7500. Really important to keep everything running and supported again. There's nothing which will change on the end user experience side. It's just a matter of getting everything aligned with the security from Google and make sure everything is updated. So this update we expect that before the end of November. So keep an eye of that. And of course, videos are coming up to keep you updated. Similar for the Teams Room licenses on Windows. A lot of things happen there, so I'm not going to dive deep into this session for that, but make sure you check it out. There's some new licenses coming up for those Teams Room devices. Make sure you are prepared for that. All right, so here ends the Poly StudioX and G7500 version 3.13 update. As you can see, there's a lot of exciting things also around it, a lot of new versions, but I'm trying to keep it today to 1 or 2 coffees and to make sure you are updated on that. Of course, like this type of video, just like and subscribe. And as I said, I always put in the comments a lot of references, also in the other videos. So always check out in those comments for any tips and tricks specifically on that subject. All right, so look forward for new videos coming up. Hopefully you enjoyed it today. And if you got any questions or comments, just leave them under the video. All right, see you in the next video.